important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Jingle bells, Batman smells, and Robin laid an egg. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here episode 59 of the Degen Roundtable. Trump wins the presidency. What is next for crypto? We're going to be going over a little bit of technical analysis for Ethereum today because Ethereum's been doing some crazy shit. We're going to talk about the Fed meeting and Jerome Powell and his simple no to the question about will he resign if Trump asks him to leave. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. For the folks at home who don't know, my name is Will Stevenson. I'm an iron worker that travels around the United States doing degenerate stuff and talking to assholes such as these gentlemen and yourselves at home. And oh yeah, that's what I do in my off time is I talk to cryptocurrency professionals and degenerates of all shapes and sizes. Joining me tonight, I've got the fantastic Zenith, our resident in-house government and legal analyst. I almost said the wrong word there. Analyst who specializes in a lot of things macroeconomics and, you know, dabbles a little bit in the legal system alongside our good friend Nuclear Herbs as well. We've also got our great value technical analyst, Agent J, over here off to my right, your camera left. Oh shoot, I have two left hands. Anyways, over to your camera left, my right-hand side. Agent J is our resident great value technical analyst. He says he's great value, but realistically, this man's technical analysis is something that's off the charts. He's super good. He loves doing TA and teaching the folks at home how to read charts and things. For the folks at home who don't know what technical analysis is, that's where you look at the green candles and the red candles of all the price action, and you're able to take patterns that have happened in the past, and then you can sort of kind of like, you can't really predict the future, but you can sort of kind of say like, oh, this is something that could happen because a whole bunch of stuff happened over here and a bunch of this stuff happened in the past. So it's not, I like to call it knuckle bones. I like to make fun of it because, you know, it's not particularly my thing, but it works fantastically for the people that put the time in to learn it and all that stuff. But anyways, enough about me and enough about my introductions. Gentlemen, what's new and exciting with you? What are you up to? What's going on? What's cracking, Macalakin? Starting with my co-host, Mr. Zenith. What's up, bro?
Not much, just doing the usual stuff over here, trying to go through the Fed meeting at double speed and find just the sauce. Although I did realize this time that if you go watch it on the actual Federal Reserve channel, they have like an explainer that's like 5 to 10 minutes that rolls like a pre-run to their actual meeting that it explains what they do and everything going on. So today I learned that for all the governors on the Board of Governors for the FOMC, they have a term of 14 years. Fun fact.
Oh, all right. Well, that's pretty cool. That would include good old Jerome Powell since he is the chair, or is that for the other folks in the other positions?
I believe it is for the other folks.
Okay. Interesting. Well, cool beans. So that's what's new and exciting with you, Mr. Agent J, my brother. What is new and exciting with you? How are you doing? How did your super secret stream go on Thursday? Tell us about that. How that went.
Oh, it went very, very well. So for those of you who do not know, we piloted a new way basically to provide basically emergency meetings and emergency streams to our community. And we tried doing that on YouTube. So we did that first episode on Thursday because one of the primary reasons why we wanted to do it was because every single time I try to do it on stream, not on StreamYard, but on Telegram is a great application, but unfortunately it rugs the hell out of my streams on more than one occasion, right? So I'm like, okay, let's try and do this on YouTube. So we spun up and when I say we, I mean our fantastic producer, Mrs. McGettit, spun up a private YouTube link for our community. They dropped that in the channel and it went extremely well. We went over. So For those of you who watch the channel regularly, you know that we predominantly focus on Bitcoin, right? Because if we tried to do chart analysis on every single other asset out there that you guys wanted us to do analysis on, we'd take more than 2 hours, and we have way more to talk about than just the tea leaves, as we'll like to mention it, right? So on that specific episode, we focused heavily on Ethereum, specifically not just the Ethereum USD chart that everybody likes to focus on, but the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, right? And why that's important, and why there is a significant shift in momentum and potential, well, not potential, but now a shift in trend within that chart, right? And then we also went over total 3, and then we also went over the other chart, and then of course we went over everybody's favorite thing to go over, which is the moon math and the price predictions on where Ethereum can go, right? And the reason why I wanted to focus on that Ethereum, more specifically ETH Bitcoin in that episode, right, is because I want everybody to understand, especially for folks who are fairly new, if this is like their first cycle, folks who tend to hyper focus on the US dollar valuation of their portfolio. I wanted them to learn why it's important to focus on the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation, because that is a very good proxy. In fact, I would say it's one of the best proxies for the health of the overall altcoin space, right? Because if that chart is down and to the right and sweeping its lows, you can predict that it's most likely going to reflect on the dollar valuation of not just Ethereum, but the entirety of the altcoin space, right? And if you're somebody who's very familiar with that chart, even if it's just a cursory knowledge of the ETH Bitcoin valuation, you're going to be able to position yourself much better throughout the entirety of the bull market, right? And so we focused heavily on that. It went extremely well. Once again, thank you to Mrs. Producer for making that happen at such short notice. But that's basically what we did on Thursday. As far as what's new and exciting, the market is exciting because we just hit $80,000 Bitcoin, and I'm pretty sure we hit 81,000 for a little bit before getting rejected back down, but now we're making a run for it again. So it's good, man. For those of you who were not footed out of the very painful consolidation phase that we had from March to September of this year, you're basically being rewarded now, right? Because Q4 of the halving year and then 2025, the sky's the limits, man. There's basically almost zero barriers in our way, especially with the Trump presidency. So congratulations to each and every single one of you who stayed, who dollar cost average, because you are going to be handsomely rewarded literally within the next 6 to 12 months. So congrats, and strap in for the ride.
Excellent. Outstanding. Well, it's good to hear that both of you guys are doing fantastic and finding awesome new things for us to talk about. And I'm glad that the stream went well as well, Mr. Agent J. But now it's time for the best part of the show, where we talk to the folks at home who have the courage and the bravery and the love in their hearts to talk to us as well. It's time for chat motherfucking shoutouts. So, Mrs. Producer, if you wouldn't mind being so kind as to bring up the first chat shoutouts, we're going to start off with Mr. Kenturian54X saying, "What's up, Degens? $80,000 Bitcoin. It's starting to get exciting." Yes, I heard some rumors. So I've been outside like chopping trees down and gathering firewood and stuff, and I've had no idea what's been going on in the market all day today. And then I took a scroll through the Degen Roundtable Telegram, and people were like, "Holy shit, $80,000 Bitcoin!" And I was like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool." I think that it wicked up to 81,000 at one point, or did some crazy shit for a short time there. But yeah, freaking 80,000 Bitcoin. That's pretty crazy. So shout out to you, Kenturian, rolling in at 4:40 p.m. Eastern time. So that's almost fucking three and a half hours before we start the stream. So good to see you, Centurion. I hope you're doing great out there. Next up in chat shadows, we've got Moon-Pilled Rational Optics coming in at 7:50, 8 minutes before we go live. Let's light this rocket. I got my duct tape ready, or his duct tape ready. Not the quack quack. This is the insulation tape, but he's got it ready. He's ready to rock and roll. I'm curious why you're using duct tape on a rocket, but you know what? I'd ride it. I'm sure it'd be great. It'd be a good time. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got none other than Tim Top saying, "What's up, Hexicans? What's up to you too, good sir? It's good to see you, Tim Top. Welcome, our favorite Mandalorian in the space, here to hang out and have some fun with us." After that, we've got Hexican Lost in Asia. "Isn't this the bull run? I thought the bull run was over."
That's right. Bull run is over. Everyone go home. There's nothing to see here.
All right, guys, that's the top. Go home. I'm not gonna give financial advice. I almost did, but yeah, that's a good point, Mr. Hexkin Lost in Asia. It's gonna be a fun time. We are probably just getting started. Who knows? I suppose it depends on what your timeline is, but yep, the feel goods are coming. After that, we've got Jack Simple. At some point, we can say we are at the moon. Earth to the moon is 238,900 miles at $1 per mile. At $238,900 per Bitcoin at some point. It's just a matter of when.
Hey,
I'm not
Will.
sure. What's
Dude,
that?
this is fucking crazy. So Mr. Jack says that from Earth to the moon is 238,900 miles. Seems eerily fucking close to some of the targets that we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like literally to the moon.
It's all moon math, bro.
That's got to be. I guarantee you, some of the Chinese are going to be taking profits at 240,000. Man, they like that shit.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, man. And you know, who was it that said that like millionaires trade with like technical analysis and chart stuff, and then billionaires trade with like moon cycles and horoscopes or whatever? I can't remember who it was, but yeah, totally true, totally true. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got none other than Mr. Ock Jockey or M Rock Jockey. I still don't know how to say it, but what's up, Degens? What's up to you two? What's up to you two, Mr. Ock Jockey or M Rock Jockey? Or I could be butchering that one too, but who knows? Then we've also got Moon-Pilled Rational Optics coming in. I made the joke when I first came to the round table. I'm going to the moon, even if I have to duct tape myself to the side of the rocket. Excellent. Well, a good shout out to Humble Beginnings and everything. Love to see it, Mr. Moon-Pilled Rational Optics. We've also got Fox Mulder joining us with his little "Make America Great Again" hat and the alien symbol. Aliens, they're all coming. We're gonna pass by the aliens on our way up to the moon. And if Bitcoin is the same dollar value as the number of miles to the moon, and it only costs us 1 Bitcoin per mile to get to the moon, then hey, perhaps there might be something to it. That might be what BlackRock does with all their money, is they fund a Bitcoin run to the moon. So we'll see. After that, we've got another chat shout out to Rock and Roll Towards Mrs. Producer. We've got Chad Donnerschwanz. Speaking of the moon, we've got the Pepe Man ripped on the moon. Hello, fellow based crypto bros. Hello to you too, Mr. Chad Donnerschwanz. Good to see you, friendo. Good to see you indeed. And I do believe that does it for chat shout outs. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, I'm going to toss it on over to Zenith, who's going to do you have something specific in mind you want to talk about regarding the FOMC? Or are you going to do like a little read through with notes?
I have even better. I have clips. We don't even have to read. We can use our eyeballs and ear holes.
I love it.
I got a little tired after putting us through all of that stuff on last book club, where we had to actually physically read a book instead of just do audiobook. So yeah, I'm very happy to get back to the ear hole meta, if you will.
Yep. It makes sense. I like it.
True.
So you're looking for your screen shares and things. While you're looking for the screen shares, I want to just touch on the fact. And are you planning on rolling into Jerome Powell and answering the I don't know what press person it was when they were talking about Donald Trump, but is that part of your little analysis thing, or is that separate?
Yes, that is absolutely part of it.
Okay, well I won't.
I guess
spoil
I'll
it
give
then.
just a little preface. By the way, I am screen sharing. Just a little preface for this meeting. It was a pretty good meeting. A lot of questions circling around the election and what a new administration is going to look like and how that affects what Jerome Powell and his team are doing. His answer, pretty consistent. It has minimal impact to none. In fact, one person even asked him, "Hey, are you going to resign?" And he just straight up looked at him deadpan and says, "No." So, yeah, that is what we got. Other than that, pretty standard stuff. We had a 1/4 point drop, which was pretty telegraphed and forecasted, in my personal opinion, since we had the 1/2 point drop back in September. So this one, pretty much telegraphed. And if you go back to what they said then, we also have another pretty telegraphed move that we're expecting another 1/4 point drop in December. There are a few questions about that I believe 1 or 2 of the clips is going to hit on them. But overall, I think it was a pretty standard press conference. Nothing too crazy. But with that being said, let's get into it. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you. Given the expectation that the election outcome will produce policies that would meaningfully impact the U.S. economy next year, how is the committee taking these proposals into account for upcoming decisions, including potentially the next one in December? And can you give us any more sense of how proactive or reactive the Fed is prepared to be to changes in economic policies with the next administration?
Sure. So let me say that in the near term, the election will have no effects on our policy decisions. As you know, many things affect the economy, and anyone who writes down forecasts in their job will tell you that the economy is quite difficult to forecast looking out past the very near term. Here, we don't know what the timing and substance of any policy changes will be. We therefore don't know what the effects on the economy would be, specifically whether and to what extent those policies would matter for the achievement of our goal variables, maximum employment, and price stability. We don't guess, we don't speculate, and we don't assume. Now, just in principle, it's possible that any administration's policies or policies put in place by Congress could have economic effects that over time that would matter for our pursuit of our dual mandate goals. So we, along with countless other factors, forecasts of those economic effects would be included in our models of the economy and would be taken into account through that channel.
There you go. First and foremost, is the election going to affect their policy? No, not really. Everything is pretty much independent outside of the election. Although we will cover it later, it does appear that the election is having some marketable impact on the markets themselves. So that might factor into some economic data, but Jerome Powell's pretty consistent, and as you see later on in the clips, he's just going to keep harping on we make decisions based on the data available to us at the time. So everything that's happened since the election has happened literally in like the last 5 days, which means it's not even captured anywhere in the data yet. So any of the data that is going to be relevant to the election, they're not going to get until probably January. Crazy to say.
What's kind of sad about this is that, like, I'm so used to living in the cryptosphere where everything that happens is calculated immediately and taken into effect in these, like, you know, I mean, I'm looking at all these old people wearing suits, sitting down at like chairs, you know, drinking waters and stuff. There, I don't see a single orange juice with ice cubes on this table. These guys are like trapped in yesterday. You know, they're trapped in yesteryear, dealing with the old-fashioned systems and things. And it's like, come on, guys, get up with the times. Start calculating stuff faster, and go ahead and start pumping my bags of that money printer. What do you got, Jay?
Consistent is a very good word that Zenith used, because if anything, that's exactly what Jerome Powell has been. Like he said, within the short term, the election is going to have no effect on our policy decisions. Very true, because remember, prior to finding out what the results of the election were, there was pressure from both sides of the aisle. One side of the aisle was like, hey, we need you to start QE because it's going to make us look good to the voters. And on the other side, the Republican side, mainly Donald Trump, is like, hey, I don't want you to start QE until I get voted into office because that's going to make me look good. And Jerome Powell basically told both of them to go kick rocks. We're going to do what we're going to do based on the data that is coming in, not because we are some partisan organization that's going to favor one side over the other. So very good. Number two, another good point that he said is any analyst worth their salt is going to tell you that anybody trying to make anybody trying to forecast economic results like well into the future is, you probably should run away from that person, right? Because it's very difficult to do so. The Fed inherently makes decisions based on lagging data. So like for you to say that I know what's going to happen in the economy 6 months to a year from now is just a whole bunch of nonsense, and you should probably not pay attention to them, right? I also like the fact that he said that, look, it doesn't matter what the proposed economic policies of the next administration is going to be, because we are still going to make decisions based on the data that we analyze, right? We are not going to fucking make decisions because Trump wants to put tariffs on some countries, or he wants to cut taxes, or he wants to create or deregulate and create less regulation for businesses, right? We are going to make decisions based on the data that we are analyzing, not on any outside third party or I guess two-party system, right? Whether that's the Democrats or the Republicans. So you got to like the consistency of JP, right? Because
him at the very minimum, right? Him as the leader of the Fed is probably one of the few entities within the entire federal government that has been pretty consistent at being bipartisan. So good on him.
Well,
Absolutely. I know we'll cover it later, but there have been some speculation that another government employee that people love to dunk on, possibly us included, is speculated to be resigning in December. But I'll say this much. As far as government bureaucrats who I think have done a poor job, Jerome Powell is not on that list. I think Jerome Powell's been very good, and honestly, I'd be happy to see him continue to serve for even an extended period of time from here. But Jay, to your point of the idea that anyone worth their salt knows that try to predict long term is kind of bogus. We actually had a quote from Book Club on Friday from The Great Wave by David Hackett Fisher. I like this one, so I'm going to read it off here real quick. He says, we might also reflect on the wisdom of John Kenneth Galbraith, who observes that, quote, the most common qualification of the economic forecaster is not in knowing, but in knowing that he does not know.
Yes.
His greatest advantage is that all predictions, right or wrong, will soon be forgotten.
Yep. It reminds me of something that I hear from really good teachers in academia, especially as you move higher up from your undergrad studies to your graduate studies. And what they'll tell you, at least from the good mentors, is that the more involved you get in higher level education and the more you think you know, the more you'll realize just exactly how little you actually know. There's a reason why people that spend 8, 10 plus years in school go into something hyper specialized, right? Like, for example, if you were in the medical industry, you might be a heart surgeon, right? That's your specialty. Because if you tried to be a general, like Swiss Army knife, you're going to realize that there are way too many things in the world that you can do, and you have a very finite amount of time and resources to funnel into them, right? So the people who are intelligent know that they know very little, and you're going to hear very consistent language like, look, man, here's what I think, but like this might happen, that might happen, right? It's the answer that people think it's a cop-out answer, but it's actually the correct answer, right? Anybody who's telling you that they have 100% certainty of what's going to happen is probably not the person that you want to be listening to, right? There are very few certainties in life.
True. All right, next clip. Let's get after it.
Associated Press. You mentioned the positive economic data that we've seen since the September meeting, including the revisions to things like savings, higher GDP growth. We saw stock market jump yesterday. That's renewed some of the questions about why do many cuts at all in this with this backdrop.
So you're right. As I mentioned, and as you mentioned, the latest economic data have been strong, and that's, of course, a great thing and highly welcome. But, of course, our mandate is maximum employment and price stability, and we think that even with today's cut, policy is still restrictive. We understand it's not possible to say precisely how restrictive, but we feel that it is still restrictive. And if you look at our goal variables, the labor market has cooled a great deal from its overheated state of 2 years ago and is now essentially in balance. It is continuing to cool, albeit at a modest rate. And we don't need further cooling, we don't think, to achieve our inflation mandate. So that's the labor market. Inflation has moved down a great deal from its highs of 2 years ago, and we judged, as I mentioned, that it's on a sustainable path back to 2%. So the job's not done on inflation. But if you look at those two things, we judged in September that it was appropriate to begin to recalibrate our policy stance to reflect this progress, and today's decision is really another step in that process. Overall, as I mentioned, we believe that with an appropriate recalibration of our policy stance, we can maintain strength in the labor market even as our policy stance enables further progress toward our inflation goal.
There you go. The key note that I wrote down for this one is that Jerome Powell says that the labor market has been cooling, but is now in balance. So if you remember back to the last Fed meeting we covered, Jerome Powell was saying, unemployment just hit 4.3%, which is much higher than like the 3.5 or 3.6% that we saw like 9 months previously. But he also throws out the idea that like this is the normal unemployment level. This is typically where it's at in quote unquote good times. So again, what he's talking about here, which is like, is the labor market technically cooling off? By the numbers, yes. However, at the same time, these are relatively healthy readings.
Yep. More specifically, Z, he also said that the numbers that we're getting now is reflective of the numbers that we were at pre-COVID. So it's really easy to zoom in and look at the rate at which unemployment has been climbing, which is why a lot of these reporters are asking the question, are you concerned that unemployment is rising at a fast clip? But then when in doubt, zoom out, you realize that the numbers that we're seeing is actually par for the course for the most part. So
that's true. I thought this reporter actually had a very good question, though, which is, he's like, look, we're getting a lot of really good economic data right now. Are you sure you need to keep cutting rates? And Jerome Powell's like, look, you're correct. That line of thinking makes sense. But at the same time, we're kind of committed to the plan and we don't see a reason to deviate from it, despite having good numbers. If it's like astronomically better, then they might deviate off of that. But as of right now, like he talked about, their goal is to get inflation down to that low number. And then again, he's going to keep saying it, the dual mandate of stable employment and full employment and stable prices. There you go.
Also, it's like, I mean, no duh. When you compare the rates pre-COVID, and you ask the question, is policy still fairly restrictive? You're like, yeah, bro. Compared to what, 0? Yeah, it's still restrictive.
Quite. True. All right, on to the next one.
Edward.
Thanks, Chair Powell. So with the noise in the jobs reports that we've seen, and you look at the Fed's favorite inflation, PCE inflation, overall it's 2.1%, very close to the Fed's target, but core inflation is 2.7%, and it's been that way since July. So why doesn't this data give fuel to a rate pause for this meeting?
Well, so I think if you look at the 3 and 6 month, you're quoting the 12-month. So we look at all of them, right? But if you look at 3 and 6 month core PCE, you'll see they're around 2.3%. So we look at all of them, and we look at 12 as well. But what it's telling us is that we really have made significant progress, and we expect there to be bumps. For example, the last 3 months of last year, the core PCE readings were very, very low, probably unsustainably low. So that's why forecasts generally see a couple of upticks toward the end of the year. On the other hand, the January reading certainly looks like an example of residual seasonality, so that we saw last year. So when that falls out of the 12-month calculation in February, we should see a thing down. So it'll literally be a bump up and then down. We understand that. Overall, you see the progress on inflation, and you also look at the economy and you say, what is the inflation story now? Where's it coming from? So I point to a couple of things. One is the
this is a good clip.
Non-housing services and goods, which together make up 80% of the core PCE index, are back to the levels they were at the last time we had sustained 2% inflation, which happens to be in the early 2000s for a period of 5, 6, 7 years. So they're back to that level. What's not is housing services. So let's talk about housing services. Housing services is higher. What's going on there is, market rents, newly signed leases are experiencing very low inflation. And what's happening is older, leases that are turning over are taking several years to catch up to where market rent leases are. So that's just a catch-up problem. It's not really reflecting current inflationary pressures. It's reflecting past inflationary pressures. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I'd say look at the labor market, not a source of inflationary pressures. Where's it coming from? It's not a very tight economy. What is the story about inflation? You see that catch-up inflation also in insurance and several other areas. So you're seeing, we're not declaring victory, obviously, but we feel like the story is very consistent with inflation continuing to come down on a bumpy path over the next couple of years and settling around 2%. That story is intact, and it won't be 1 or 2 really good data months or bad data months aren't going to really change the pattern at this point now that we're this far into the process.
So you're quickly trying to get to that neutral rate that you see, or do you foresee that you have some time to get there?
Nothing in the economic data suggests that the committee has any need to be in a hurry to get there. We are seeing strong economic activity. We are seeing ongoing strength in the labor market. We're watching that carefully, but we do see maintaining strength there. And so we think that the right way to find neutral, if you will, is carefully, patiently. Again, that's not meant to have a specific meaning, other than to the extent the economy remains strong, we have the ability to take advantage of that as we try to navigate that middle path between the two risks.
Apologies for the long clip on that one, but this is one of my favorite exchanges of the entire press conference.
This was a very, very good clip. Very good clip. Go ahead.
So I'll give him his flowers and I'll give him a critique. So I think this is a very eloquent explanation that was all encompasses and really breaks down the data and understand what's going on with the inflation. The only critique I'm going to give him is this is something that I've been personally harping on for probably a year and a half at this point, which is that it does frustrate me sometimes when it appears that they pick and choose which inflation data they really go off of. Because he talked about the 3-month, the 6-month, or the 12-month PCE inflation. The original question from the reporter was 2.7% core inflation from PCE. Jerome Powell earlier during his opening statement that we didn't show here just for sake of time, but he references that both core and the non-core are 2.1 to 2.3% inflation PCE, but that's not the 12-month, which the reporter was referencing. Those are instead either the 3 or the 6. We don't even get a clear explanation about which one's which. So this is a bit of a point of frustration for me personally, which is that this is the thing that gives credence to people when they say, oh, they're cherry picking the data. They're just choosing what they want to see. I understand he says we're looking at all of the data, but at the same point, I think people look for a little more consistency. But overall, I think he had a very good point there, which is that a lot of the core inflation items have been coming down. Housing services still remains very inflated. I understand the argument about the leases turning over and whatnot, but overall, I think that the turn to asset class investing and people really, really seeing homes and real estate as a store of value, or more accurately, a hedge against inflation, I think that's really what kind of doubles down and spikes those inflation numbers even further. That's what I got.
It sounded to me like he was cherry picking the data. And again, I don't know what pretty much any of this stuff means. Like all of this is Greek to me, and it sounded like the same theme that we've been talking about for a long time here on the Degen Roundtable. And it's like, yeah, sometimes they'll take the short-term data, sometimes they'll take the long-term data. They're changing the way that they measure the data. And yeah, I'm glad that you were able to point that out and that you played this clip.
So in this case, Will, he's not changing how the data
full on call it cherry picking.
Yeah, he's cherry picking the data that makes the economy look the best, right? That's why Z mentioned that he's specifically focusing on the 3 and the 6 month, right? Because the 3 and the 6 month look back time period is 3 and 6 months. And if you look back at the 3 and 6 month data, they have certainly been a lot better. Why? Because they're reflective of the policy changes that happened within the last 3-6 months, and the economy has been recovering. What if you use the 12 month, which is what the reporter said, right? Well, you're suddenly now taking into consideration another extra 6 months worth of data when the economy was still a little bit more shaky and a little bit more unstable, right? Which is why when Bean says core PEC, sticky, because people are taking a look at the 12 month. And when you have a look back period that encompasses 12 months, you're going to look back at data that's a little bit less favorable, right? And so, yes, do people tend to cherry pick what numbers, right? But again, the reason why I love this clip is because they spoke about the 3, the 6, and 12, right? What happens? Here's the thing. What happens 6 months from now? And the 12 month looks back at this time period. What do you think is going to happen to core PCE? Just as a shot at the fucking dark.
They're going to be like, wow, it looks so good when we use this one now.
It's not sticky anymore, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, that's the point, is that they're not being, like, to me anyways, they're not being considered. The numbers don't lie, but the way that you present the numbers, in what particular order, in which numbers you choose to talk about, does tell a story, and you can use that to lie.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that Jerome Powell's a liar. He strikes me as
he's cherry picking.
Yeah, he strikes me as a person that is honest. But again, like you guys were saying, he didn't answer the reporter's question from the frame that the reporter asked it. He took the reporter's question and he chose the part that he liked from it, right? And then he answered that part or something like that.
Yeah.
Is
But
that how that went?
So that's why. So if you remember, Will, he gave the example of the housing market, right? Of new leases being signed, right? So
Yeah.
that's the kind of image that he was painting when he was comparing the 3, the 6, and the 12, and that the people that are signing new leases have less inflationary pressures on them because you're taking a look at the period of time that they're signing the lease now, right?
Yeah.
When we're in a
Yeah,
state
yeah.
of QE and the economy is a little bit better, but people who are turning over the leases from 12 months ago, they're still playing catch up, right? Because those especially if you were like if you signed well, I'm thinking not a lease, but like let's say you signed a fixed mortgage, right? Like 12 months ago, and you were locked in to like a 7%, bro. Like that's kind of tragic, right? Like just imagine. So that's the kind of comparison that he made there, which is why I actually like the example that he gave, because it gave a real world example as opposed to just focusing on the dry data.
Okay. Stop me
That's
if I'm
true.
asking questions that are like far too
No, bro.
minded,
No,
but
you're
like
good.
I think that it gives the folks at home who are like me who don't know any of this stuff a little bit more understanding. So
Well, tell you what, Will, I actually do have a very specific question for you, which is I wanted to ask you what you thought about his campfire story at the end, where he talks about the idea that, look, even if we have 1 or 2 bad CPI reports, we're not going to immediately deviate from the plan, because he says this is a longer term journey. It's going to be rocky. It's not going to be perfectly smooth the whole way. There will be ups, there will be downs, but until we get enough data to deviate from that plan, he's going to stick to it. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
well, I think that that is a plan. That is a way to tackle a problem. Now, I don't know if this is like when you're oh man, there's a bunch of different ways that you can look at it, because you can look at it from a tactical perspective, or you could look at it from a strategic perspective, or like you could like really zoom out and look at it from a campaign perspective, right? So the different levels of leadership there is like when you're making tactical decisions, when you're on the ground, you're in the shit and stuff is happening and you're taking in information, like you're making quick decisions, you're adapting to things on the fly and you're moving very fast, and you're the rabbit that's running the race, that's like adapting to all the different things as they're happening, right? When you look at it from a more strategic perspective, it's like, okay, you're not going to make as many changes because your strategy is still like relevant, like when you're solving things at a bigger problem, you don't make as quick of a change, or like as much of a change. So like I understand his perspective here. And then like when you're looking at things from a campaign perspective, it's like the United States isn't going to stop. So like let's say the United States campaign in Afghanistan or whatever, right? They're not making a whole bunch of different decisions all the time at the campaign level, or even like they might make some changes occasionally at the strategic level, but down to the tactical level, everything's changing all the fucking time, because that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where the important stuff is. So like I listen to Jerome Powell speaking, and of course, like I'm not in the same frame of mind as him because I'm operating at the tactical level pretty much always. So like I don't see strategic, I don't see campaign. I
Let's
sort of
hit you
kind
with
of
this
understand
question.
that they exist, but
Let's bring it back. Which of the 3 levels do you think Jerome Powell is operating on here?
probably campaign or
You think he's
strategic.
that high up? Okay, I was gonna say
I don't really know, because like who's above the Fed?
Well, theoretically, no one, which is that they are in charge of their own mandate, but they are appointed by certain bodies. But
So
I
like
think
maybe
whether you
strategic.
want to call it the campaign or strategic, I think the correct answer is not tactical, and that's exactly what he's trying to describe here, which is like, look, we get data 1 month at a time. That is not that is very granular. That is like it is not a smooth curve. It is very up and down. If that was a radar, you have a lot of noise, and you don't know what is actually an object and what is just a phantom. So I think it makes sense that he's telling people this, and he's giving folks the reminder. He's like, look, I am not going to knee-jerk reaction change every FOMC based on the tiny percent that the inflation changes. That is not how this works.
Yeah,
And
so like go ahead, Jay.
I was just saying to put it the simplest, and I'm going to use the real estate example again. If you take a look at the average rent price and your look back period was 12 months, that number is going to be high and it's going to be sticky. But if you take a look at the average rent price, whether it's the last three, sticky means it's staying relatively flat.
Oh,
right?
okay.
There's very little amount of change, right? Which
Gotcha.
happens when your look back period is very long, right? That's why the 200-day moving average is very flat compared to the 10-day moving average.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So back to the rent example. If you compare the average rent within the last 3 months or the last 6 months, that number is not going to be as sticky because they're reflecting the changes in monetary policy that the Fed has been implementing between the last 3 and 6 months, which is what's happening. Prices are slowly but surely going down, right? So I hope that simplifies it to a significant degree for a lot of folks, right? Because I mean, I don't know how much else I can simplify it.
I am adopting the perspective that Jerome Powell is hodling and he's not day trading.
I think that's a good description.
Yeah.
All right, gents, we have one final clip and then one meme at the end that is a clip, but it's very short. I think we all know which one that is. But final clip, here we go.
Hi, Chair Powell. Kelly O'Grady, CBS News. We just talked about what you've heard from business leaders on the economy, but many average Americans are still not feeling the strength of the economy in their wallets. So what's your message to them on when they might expect relief?
So you're right that we say the economy is performing well, and it is, but we also know that people are still feeling the effects of high prices, for example. And the world went through a global inflation shock, and inflation went up everywhere, and it stays with you because the price level doesn't come back down. So what that takes is it takes some years of real wage gains for people to feel better. And that's what we're trying to create, and I think we're well on the road to creating that. Inflation has come way down. The economy is still strong here. Wages are moving up, but at a sustainable level. So it's just I think what needs to happen is happening, and for the most part has happened. But it'll be some time before people regain their confidence and feel that. And we don't tell people how to feel about the economy. We completely respect what they're feeling. Those feelings are true. They're accurate. We don't question them. We respect them.
And just a quick follow-up. President-elect Trump has been critical of your performance. Any concern about his influence on the Fed's independence?
I'm not going to get into any of the political things here today. But thank you.
There you go. Good little sizzle at the end there. But in case you missed the answer there. The answer was, what does it take for the Americans to feel better after having high prices for so long? And the answer was years of real wage growth. Yep. If you take it at the literal translation and the best possible interpretation, that means 2 years of real wage growth. So that's not a really great answer for the American people if you're trying to get technical with it, because he's saying, look, best I can do is you might feel relief in 2 years. So 2027?
Zenith, I have a request for you. If you would humor me, I would like you to go back to when she's asking the question, but I want you to mute it, and because focus on her body language. This is something that I was picking up as she was asking the question. The way that she moves her head and squints her eyes and does all this subtle stuff. You can tell that she's asking because the question essentially was around feelings on the market and everything, and the way that she was asking the question and her tonality and her small muscle movements and stuff. I want the folks at home to kind of take a look at her body language right now. So look at the way that she's she will squint her eyes periodically. She will tilt her head side to side. If somebody's doing kind of this while they're talking, and then they stand up a little bit straighter and then they go back and forth. It's a little bit more emotive versus Jerome Powell. He's standing tall and he's dictating. It's it's speaking from a position of emotion more so than a position of information. So I thought that this was interesting from a body language study, and I don't mean to detract from the conversation at all, but this is something that I picked up while she was asking the question, and I thought it was Drum gave a very good answer, and it's almost like she's trying to tempt him with the red meat, right? Trying to elicit That's how I perceive
I
this
see what
anyway.
you're getting at, but I respectfully disagree. I
Sure.
believe the core of this question is that it's very easy to say the economy is doing well from a numbers perspective. However, when you look at some other data points, like the fact that the average American savings are depleted, they've never been closer to bankruptcy.
Down
pretty
to the
much.
right.
Exactly. And all the prices are still high. Your dollar doesn't go nearly as far as it does anymore. It's very easy from the boardroom perspective to say, like, yeah, profits are high. That should be a good thing. But the other thing is that the value of money has dropped, which means that just because a profit margin is up, it doesn't mean that the actual percentage or the adjusted value of money has increased. In fact, it's probably decreased. So the question here is, cool, our little sheets of paper say number go up, but how does that help people who are struggling to feed their families and stuff?
Can I buy the same number of loaves of bread with the same amount of time units that I'm spending?
Bingo, there it is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because we care about this stuff because it affects our bags directly. We have the luxury of doing that, right? Like, yes, does inflation suck? Absolutely. But there are people like us, and especially people who are wealthy, like inflation isn't affecting them to the same degree that lower middle class Americans are being affected, right? Like, we have the luxury of being able to throw capital into the capital market, but most people are just worried about paying rent, right? The skyrocketing cost of living and having to take on multiple jobs at a time because they're having a difficult time just meeting their basic necessities of living, right? So aside from that, the only other thing I gotta say is, look, man, Kelly, she's cute, but she's not as cute as Gina.
Heard of what?
She's not as cute as Gina. There's another gal here. I think she's in the New York Times. Gina Smiley, I think it is. She got the glasses. I think she's the one right there on the top left of the ponytail, or like, I don't know, it's not a ponytail, but
Was she the one that asked the first question?
I think so.
No.
No. She's Asian. I don't like Asian girls, man. There you go. That's Gina right there. Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
Smilek, not Smiley. I don't know how to pronounce it, man.
Smilek? I don't know. Let's see. Let's do Will's body language analysis and see what Gina's given us today. This is the hard-hitting analysis people come for.
I mean, hey, this is different analysis. Ooh. Oh man. Okay. All right. Can you?
Some good eye contact right there.
No. In the beginning, she does upwards eyes, right? Yeah. So like the difference between me looking at the camera like that and me looking at the camera like that, like there's a different it's a subservient position. That's amusing.
I don't know. I think Jay's spot on with this one though. She looks
Probably
well put together.
Yeah, sure. She is well put together and she's sharp, but like the body language is important. Yeah. Watch the body language, boys.
She's a lot more stern too.
Sure.
That's true. Speaking of body language, I think I have one of the best examples of standing your ground. So let's get to it.
Yes.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
Smile, bro.
No.
Like the corners of her mouth.
Can you follow up on? Do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
My man Jerome, solid as a fucking rock.
Oh, it's amazing, man. Yeah.
Hitting him with the deadpan. Just no.
There are very few exceptions to when the president can remove the Fed chair, and I think Congress has to do it. Right.
So
the president can suggest it, but I think Congress has to approve it.
So it's not very often done, but the president can remove the chairman or the vice chairman or any other member of the board of governors for cause, which provides another layer of accountability. I don't know what cause means, but that is the answer that my research has turned up. And by research, I mean I asked Grok. So that's what it was telling me. But yeah, I was asking if they're accountable to the president specifically, and it was like kind of, but not really. They're not directly accountable.
Before we get over to our TA and too far off this, we do have one other government official who is being speculated about currently. Oh, look at that! It's Gary Gensler, none other than the Guzzler himself. SEC.
Oh my God, he's GG33! Holy fuck! like the numbers guy, the numerologist person that
Yes, the
Miguel's always got
33rd
on.
chair of the SEC. So we have SEC Chairman Gary Gensler will resign as 33rd chair of the SEC by the end of December, according to an anonymous source, aka this is wild speculation. Chair Gensler was appointed by President Joe Biden in 2021 and succeeded Joe Clayton, who resigned in 2020.
I wonder if this article is like a little feeler that they put, like anonymous source, you know, like, hey, will the people
I don't think
react?
they need anonymous sources on this one because out of all the government officials over the last 4 years, I think Gary Gensler has quickly become one of the most villainized, and for good reason too.
Yeah.
Like even the vast majority of Congress does not like the way that he's handling himself or the agency.
Oh yeah.
Gang, we've been talking about the news, man, but Bitcoin's at 81.5 right now, man.
Is it really? All right,
It's at
we'll
81.5.
finish off this.
This is
Shout
wild.
out to Chuck Nuclear Herbs. He's saying more good news. Pop open another bottle whenever this happens, and he linked this one. So shout out to the boys. But yeah, that's
I
what's
think
going on.
the speculation right now. I know Trump has there's speculation of who Trump wants to get in there, but I think Hester is a shoe-in. I think if they were going to promote from within, I think Hester, like you can't deny that she's done an amazing job lobbying for our side, and even Ueda, right? It's always Hester and Ueda who are on one side versus the other three people in the commission whenever they appear in Congress. So like either one of those two, like my vote's for Hester because she's been a little bit more outspoken and out there, like working the rounds when it comes to engaging with the space than Ueda has. But either one of them would be great.
Fair enough. Shoot. I think it was like one of the people that was in charge of like Robinhood funds or something. I can't remember the name. I think he's on the short list, the alleged short list of people to take over the SEC soon.
Yeah, I heard about that a few days ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, until we get actual confirmation or we actually see what people are considering, don't really know. It's all just speculation. But yeah, outside of that, Jay, it's time. Let's do it.
Time?
Let's
Is it that time?
talk. Let's do it. Let's talk about Bitcoin.
My goodness, $81,000 Bitcoin. That is pretty freaking fantastic. Congratulations to all of you who have stayed in this market. Okay, so let me go ahead and clean this up real quick. We are going to go over Bitcoin 60-day cycle. Where are we currently in the 60-day cycles for Bitcoin? So you guys know, if you've been paying attention to the chat, that I am of the opinion that we are actually in a new 60-day cycle with a brand new high right now on day number 7. Now, the reason why I believe that we are in a new 60 cycle as opposed to an extended cycle, which some people will argue, there are a few things. Number one, this is probably the closest to a perfect 60-day cycle that you're going to get, right? With a cycle low here on day number 59. Further, what I'm looking for when it comes to extended cycles in Bitcoin or in any asset class that follows a 60-day cycle pattern is if we are in an extended cycle, what you're looking for is you're looking for the volume, the injection of capital to decrease significantly. But what you saw here with this is the wrong thing. There's my drawing tool. What you're seeing here, right, with the higher price action is also higher amount of volume following that price action, right? So that's number one. Usually what you're going to look for is with every single new high, you're looking for a significant drop in volume. But if you can see here, this happened on election night. This injection of volume is probably the highest volume candle that we've had for a significant period of time, right? In fact, looking back almost the entire year, during the entire year, this is the largest volume injection that we've had during the entire year. Number two, all right, when you take a look at the RSI, during election night, the RSI was flirting with knocking out the bearish divergence on your momentum indicators. And now, over the past few days, it's basically done exactly that. So not only have we have the new highs come with a significant injection of volume, but we also knocked out the bearish divergence on the RSI. This is telling me that instead of an extended cycle, the last cycle was over here on day number 59, and we are now in a new cycle, which is going to take us all the way into, I believe, early January, right? Let's take this out all the way up into January. Yep. This is Friday, the 3rd of January, the day before my wife's birthday. So if we get $100,000 Bitcoin plus on that day, we're going to be popping some champagne bottles for sure, right?
There we
go.
go.
That is in terms of the 60-day cycle. Now, why are we bullish for Bitcoin over the next 60-day cycle, aside from the stuff that we've already gone over, right? So let's look at some other technicals here. Now, first trend line. we have established a new trend, right? Respecting the lows of this trend line with higher lows. Further, this downward sloping trend line, which we formed from the very beginning of March, I think. Yeah, this was March, our prior all-time high. During this entire sideways consolidation process, well, we've finally broken out strongly above that trend line, right? So not only do you respect the higher low structure, but you have now also broken this massive downward sloping trend line and have basically reversed trend, right? Now you have a higher high structure as well. Not to mention, you have broken the 1, 2, 3 consecutive left translated cycles for Bitcoin with this right translated cycle, right? Further, another big range that we were taking a look at was this parallel range that Bitcoin was trading it for the overwhelming majority of the year. Not only have we broken past the midline and above it, we have now started to close. I think this was our first weekly close above the trend line, and really the first weekly close above our prior all-time highs over here, right? So there's a lot of significant bullish momentum. And surprise, surprise, here's the last trend line that we are going to take a look at. It is our long-term bull market trend line that we have basically been trading under here since July. Let me switch over to the weekly chart. Turn this off. Right. This is the last major area of resistance for Bitcoin to reclaim before we start getting really parabolic. And I'm telling you, like, there literally is, aside from like potential fib levels, right, which are hypothetical because we're into price discovery, right? And they're going to change depending on where you pull your fibs from. This is the last major area of resistance for Bitcoin. Once you reclaim this long-term bull market trend line, because we have reclaimed all of our long-term moving averages as well, right? You already have your golden cross, right? You've reclaimed your 111, you've reclaimed your 20-week, you've reclaimed your 200-day. And so all the long-term averages have been reclaimed. Now the only thing left standing in the way for Bitcoin is regaining that long-term bull market trend line, right? So that is the cycle analysis. Now, for everybody's favorite part, let's get into some Elliott wave and moon math price predictions. Let me clean this up a little bit. Now, two scenarios for your Elliott wave here on the weekly. First scenario is that we have a macro 1, 2, 3, 4 already in, heading into the wave 5, right? Your wave 5 estimated at the earliest to end sometime in late Q1, early Q2 of next year. If we were to get a truncated bull market in terms of time, right, that's where we would get our top, right? Sometime in late Q3, late Q1, early Q2 of 2025 for a truncated bull market in terms of time. What are our price targets? If you take a fib, your fib is taken from the start of your wave 1 to the top of your wave 3 to the bottom of your wave 4. Common extensions for your fibs is anywhere between the 0.05 and 0.786 fib extensions, which would place us anywhere in between $110,000 Bitcoin to $170,000 Bitcoin. Not too fucking shabby, right? And the reason why I am looking at the higher end of this fib, even all the way up into the 1-for-1 fib extension, which puts us pretty damn close at $240,000 Bitcoin, is because if you take a look at your wave 3 here, this is actually a pretty weak wave 3, right? Especially when you compare to the totality of price action of Bitcoin's history, this is one of the weakest wave 3s that we've ever had, right? But when you take a look at the volume candles here, you have met the requirements for what a typical wave 3 looks like, right? Oh, actually, no, it didn't. Right? If this was your wave 3, the largest injection of volume was from your wave 1. So yeah, this is pretty pitiful for a wave 3. I did not notice this, right? Because when in terms of volume, what you're looking for is if your wave 3 follows your typical Elliott wave impulse scenario, you expect the largest injection of volume to occur during your wave 3. And that's not what happened, right? That occurred here on your wave 1, right? So if we are waiting for a wave 5 that is the most bullish out of the 3 impulses that we have, right? Then you're going to expect your wave 5 volume to basically knock this one right here, knock this one out, right? So this is your volume candle to beat here, all the way back here in March of 2023, right? So that is scenario number 1. Scenario number 2. This is the really like super duper bullish targets, right? Similar to what we had on the Ethereum analysis back on Thursday, what we are looking at here is a double 1-2 scenario for Bitcoin, right? Double 1-2 because your macro, your big wave 1 and 2 are in. We are looking for a wave 3 to not yet be in. And the reason why it's called a double 1-2 is because you have your 1 and 2 to a smaller degree already completed, and your 3, 4, 5 smaller degree yet to come in. Once your 3, 4, and 5 of a smaller degree are in, that completes the big macro wave 3 impulse, right? We are looking in terms of time, same time horizon, right? This would be your traditional 4-year cycle. I'm looking for this in terms of time to top sometime late Q1, early Q2 of next year, right? Your wave 4, big wave 4 comes in during the seasonality, right? Sell in May, go away. So we get that summer lull again sometime during wave 4. And then you finish strongly into September, October, November of the post-halving year 2025. And that's where our moon math targets are going to be. So what is our targets for this particular double 1-2 scenario? All right. Fib extension taken from the start to the top of your wave 1 to the end of your wave 2. The top of our wave 3, we are taking a look at the top, which is going to be sometime, once again, late Q1, early Q2 of next year, is $150,000 Bitcoin. If we are looking at the double 1-2 scenario, you are looking at a wave 3 top of about $150,000, right? If you get super parabolic, the next big level, the next big fib level I'm looking at is a 3618. That's kind of crazy, man. Again, I'm conservative. I'm just working with the more likely scenarios with you guys. But $300,000 fucking Bitcoin by late March, early April of next year, I'm not going to complain if it happens. But like, this is some serious fucking moon math, right? So I'm going to stay on the conservative end. Then if this is the correct scenario, then I'm looking at a 2618 extension to about $150,000. We're going to get a dip into Q2, Q3 of next year before we get really parabolic into the $240,000, $300,000 Bitcoin sometime in November, October, November of next year, which would complete our traditional 4-year cycle before we start heading back down to the bear market, right? So that's what I got for analysis. Will and Z, if you have anything to add or questions, please do so.
I do. I actually want to go back to the Bitcoin 60-day cycle count.
Sure.
So I know that you are the opinion that we are in a new 60-day cycle, but to be honest with you, I have been on the fence on this one. I personally have been looking at it, and I understand the arguments for the 59-day cycle, but at the same time, I do also see an argument for the fact that we are in an extended cycle simply based on where the peak in the previous cycle was, which is that traditionally, whenever we get a cycle high past day 30, it usually is an indicator that we're going to have an extended cycle. And especially when we had one so late, because by my count, we had...
Wait, Z, one more time. When we get a high past day 30, is that correct?
Correct. When we get a cycle high past day 30, it typically becomes a right translated cycle.
Correct. But so, how do you determine if it's an extended? Because I mean, any high past day 30 is a right translated cycle. How do you determine if it's an extent? Like, do you have a cutoff as to like if the high occurs on this day, then it's more likely based on your analysis that it's an extended cycle?
I might be using incorrect terminology. So I don't okay. Extended cycle might not be what I'm referring to. I'm just referring to a right translated cycle.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Which is that, so we had the high on day 53. That is very late in the cycle. So that is something that indicates to me it is a higher likelihood that we could have a longer cycle. So one of the tools that I use is partly of my own creation, which is the normal distribution analysis, aka the bell curve of the length of all the different ones. Yes. So because we had that.
I love that analysis. That's one of my favorite ones that you do.
Because we had that day 53 high, it is one of those indicators that points me towards believing that there is a higher possibility that we could see a cycle that's further out on the bell curve, which is that based on the analysis I did, the mean is like 59 and a half days. And then outside of that, you're going to have your standard distribution of about 9 days. What that means is that anywhere between 60 to 69 days is pretty much going to be about like 33-ish% of cycles. And then outside of that, there's going to be another like 17%. That's going to account for the next bit. And then outside of that, that's where we're at 3 standard deviations. Yeah. I try not to focus on anything out there because it's just so unlikely.
Like however, the 80-day cycle. Yeah.
Exactly. Correct. So what I'm looking at personally is I think that there is a distinct possibility for something between a 69 and 78 day cycle on this one, simply because of how far it's out. But at the same time, hitting 81.5K Bitcoin today. Also, it's a double-edged sword on this one for me, which is it could theoretically prove that we even have a day 65 high, which is even a little more outlandish, harder to believe. But if it's true, then that also lends credence to the idea that it really is that right translated cycle, and we could see that second standard deviation cycle. But I don't know. It's the way I'm looking at it. It's like I don't see a super distinct cycle low. I understand the change in the bearish divergence when it comes to RSI versus price.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would not be surprised if we saw a retest of some lower trend lines or some lower daily moving averages. So like maybe retesting the 20 or the 50 here in the next week or two. That would make sense. But at the same time, I think unfortunately my theories are getting really into the deep side of low probability. So that's the only case against it, I will say.
Yeah. So yeah, you're in your thesis, Z, that we are here 66. We are on day 66 of the current cycle with a high here on day 66. We're probably going to, then I'm assuming we're going to look for a cycle low sometime within the next few weeks, third week in November, right? Anywhere between, because I mean, if we have a day 66 high, man, like Jesus, I would expect the cycle low to come in within the next week or so, because then we would get into the 3 standard deviation territory that you were speaking about. That becomes a lot more unlikely, right?
Correct. The end of the 2 standard deviation territory is 79 or 78 days, which is going to be the 23rd of November. That's a good bit a ways, but at the same time, I think it's very possible that we could come down and retest the 20 or maybe even the 50-day moving average. But at this point, I will say one of the very positive notes that I have is we are well above the 200 daily moving average, and I am very excited to see that again. It means we're back to more normal market operations, and it definitely will bolster confidence with investors.
Yeah, being above the 200 is such a big deal, man, because like underneath the 200, that's bear market times, bro. Like that, if you took a look at all of 2022, we got rejected multiple times, and then we just spent the rest of the year like so far under it. So whenever we're underneath the 200, people are like, fuck. So the fact that we recovered it, like I'm pretty happy about that. But hey, either way, bro, it's like the funny thing is, whether your cycle count or my cycle count is correct, it always seems to happen that we end up like if you use a term that the girls use, our cycles align eventually.
We become in sync at some point. Yeah,
our cycles, because this happened last time too, right? When we had different.
Oh, for sure. You and I have done this multiple times, where it's like we'll usually have like one cycle where you and I are in like solid agreement, but like yes, start, end. And then there's like some sort of like slight anomaly. And then you and I are going back and like, all right, is it too short? Is it one long? Is it some failed cycle thing? And then inevitably we always just come right back to it. Be like, nope, there's no denying. That is a wick low right there, baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think we might just be in one of those times right now. But I will say, listening to you speak about your theory, it makes a lot more sense. And the only other final point that I have for mine is that I think for my theory to remain true, we would have to get rejected at the 81.5 level because I understand it's price discovery, but the 81.5 level or right around that 82,000 level was a Fibonacci level that we've talked about extensively in the past. So I think that's one of the things that it has to be respected in order for my theory to stay correct. If we just keep pumping past this, then yeah, I think you're spot on.
One more thing, Izzy, and to add to your thesis, the 81.5 level is right at our long-term trend line. We're getting rejected there right now. So if you can't recover that and you get rejected, then yeah, does it give more credence that your cycle count is correct? Yep, probably. Yeah, it certainly does.
For sure, I like it. I think it's just that dang failed cycle we had between July and September that really threw everything off. But
yeah. But for me, again, right, it's like just the massive injection of volume, not indicative of late of extended cycles, and you knocked out the bearish divergence. Extended cycles almost always exhibit those two things: a decrease in volume with new highs and bearish divergence with new highs, and we just didn't get that, right? Like that massive injection of volume during election night, I know it's an anomaly, but it's like,
it's still data. It's still good data. Yep. It's not invalid.
Yep.
For sure. The only outside macro points that I have to help bolster my theory is that we have a CPI report coming out next week. Yeah. So I believe it's Wednesday, I want to say. So that could be something that might help affect the markets a bit, but at the same time, we'll have to see, because the dominant effect right now is far and away the election. The election is outside of the singular Bitcoin ETF approval back in January and then the massive pump in March. I think the election is one of these, that and the Mt. Gox repayment. Mt. Gox, Bitcoin ETF, election. Those are the three events that I can point to on the calendar and pick out each one of them specifically.
The repayments were delayed until indefinitely, right? We don't have a specific date for that, or did that change? Did I miss that?
Oh no, there was a Mt. Gox repayment. That's what we got, the that massive wick low August 5th.
Oh yes, earlier in the year. Yes, earlier in the year. Yeah, but future repayments have been I think delayed indefinitely. There's no set date. But yes, we did get the repayment earlier in the year. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the year, there's a few of those events. One is the ETF. I can look at the exact date that we had the ETF launch. I can also see the exact date we had that repayment, and I can see the exact date we have the election. This crazy to think is that there even was a good mid-cycle dip based on, that was early May, late April, when I want to say Hamas was attacking Israel, and there was just some like generalized global destabilization. I remember at the time we were like, oh wow, these are big red candles, and those things look tiny now.
Will, let's go chats. There's some good questions in the chats that we can hop into if you'd like. You're muted, sir. You're very muted.
I wanted to, before we do that, let Moonpilled Rational Optics know that I actually fixed my chart. I've added the later on and the long ago to my chart. So
very nice.
Shout out,
good time scale.
That one's for you, Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, where the fuck is my chat shoutouts thing? I had it like a second ago. God bless America. What the hell did I do with that thing? It is time for chat shoutouts, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That's gonna bother me till the day I die. I found it. Haha, right where I'd placed it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for chat shoutouts. Mrs. Producer, let me go ahead and scroll over to that page. Okay, I can see him now. First up in chat shoutouts, we've got Mr. Beyond All saying they made a plan, run with it, and the results are showing on ground, but they have to stick to the plan if they are to maintain the forecasted results. I agree with him for not blowing up with the wind. So it makes sense. It makes sense that he's making either strategic or campaign level decisions and not tactical decisions. So yes, shout out to you, Beyond All. Welcome to the channel, and I think we're all in agreement about that and about Jerome's campfire storytelling skills and things. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got Mr. K. Hudson saying Richard Hart's call of $241,000 is within the margin of error, or plus or minus 5%. So that is good to know.
You want to take a shot at that,
I believe that this is a high confidence level. This is so the 241.5K level or top for Bitcoin. I think that's probably closer to a 5 to 10% call. I don't see it. I think I've been on record for this for at least like a year at this point, which is that I think the 152 to 154K Bitcoin area is a pretty standard, if not slightly optimistic call. And I could even see, I want to say it was like 128K. It was like the bearish call. So that's what I am expecting. I would be thrilled to see 241. But again, at the same time, I think that I think that's less likely. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
absolutely
I mean,
possible, but it's the upper end.
I agree, which is why during the first scenario that I gave, the wave 5 top was around Z's $150,000 call, right? But that would give us, if that were to play out in terms of time, that would give us a very truncated bull market in terms of time. We don't know what this market can do. Like there's just so many tailwinds, man. We have not had a period of time, and I mean an extended period of time. Like I'm talking like 6 months to plus period of time where the entire, like everybody and their mother was risk on, right? There's like this bull market has been filled with significant uncertainty because of the elections, because of like international events, wars, tight fiscal policy. We have not been in a significant period of time where everybody was risk on. So are me and Z conservative? I don't know. Maybe it's just because by nature we're conservative. We don't want to like blow smoke up people's ass. But if the market gets bonkers and we hit Raoul Powell's banana zone when everybody is risk on, like DeFi summer 2021, can you see $300,000? Yeah, for sure. Like we don't know what the effects of massive inflows into Ethereum ETFs are going to be. We don't know what the effects of Solana ETFs are going to be, right? We don't know what's going to happen from both the retail and traditional financial side when everybody's risk on. We just don't know. Only 2025 is going to tell us. So yeah, I think like for me and Z, we're inherently conservative, so we don't like we go on the lower side. But bro, 300,000, we ain't gonna be complaining.
That's true. Very true.
Going to tell themselves. Go ahead, Z.
Pulling up a screen share here for you.
Okay.
So
we are in the middle of chat shoutouts, though. So I've got, I think, 2 more.
I know. The great irony is I also already have things pulled up for more chat shoutouts that I see starred. So we will. There's plenty.
All
so
right.
In case you cannot see that giant green candle on the right side of the screen here, this is the Bitcoin spot ETF flows. This is where we're at right here. This massive candle, along with just a generalized increase in ETF flow. That is pretty much what's been feeding into the current price of what's going on with Bitcoin, which, keep in mind, it did take it pretty much all the way from 60 to new highs. So it's not nothing. But at the same time, ask yourself, how much more money do you think traditional finance is going to continue to pump into this market? Because, again, like those candles we saw pretty much took us from here in September to where we are now. Granted, it is a good increase, but at the same time, how much more money is there to put into the market and how much farther can it take it? So I look at the ETFs as one of the big driving factors this cycle, and I think that this data right here also supports the theory that the 152 to 154K Bitcoin theory is still very valid. I would love to see like retail investors just go absolutely crazy and just like dump money and send it to the moon. But the reality is that traditional finance is in the market. There's nobody larger than them, which means they're going to have to either increase their holdings or increase their input, which, by the way, this still is far and away the single most profitable financial product launch in human history. I don't know how much more capital they can inject without just yeeting grandma and grandpa's 401ks in there. Just saying.
Hey, that's free money every 2 weeks or once a month or something like that. It's like $50 million or whatever.
Yeah, just for reference, I believe all the 401ks inside the United States accounts for $39 trillion. Bitcoin market cap, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere around like total crypto market cap is sitting around like 2.5 trillion right now. I might have my stats. Nope, I don't have my stats. Anyways, yeah.
All good. On to chat shoutouts, or back to chat shoutouts, I should say. Next up for chat shoutouts, let's see. We left off at K Hudson, so he was asking about the 5%. Next up at chat shoutouts, we've got Moonpilled Rational Optics. Did you see dollar cost crypto being right about 80,000 Bitcoin is where normies start coming in? It could be the normies. Could be the normies buying. He could very well be right. Shout out to DCC and Charlie, by the way.
I'm going to answer this real quick. Go ahead, Z.
I was going to say, I agree. In fact, one of the fantastic guests that, or only book club guest at this point, Christian Hines, he's primarily a Politico. He's a dude that got super, super deep in the weeds for the Virginia voting this cycle and has been really focusing on that. He's crypto adjacent, I will say that much. But here you go, right from Christian Hines. He says, hail Trump, hail portfolios, hail Bitcoin. Giving us a nice little Robin Hood snapshot, I think, which is like, hey, we up, baby. So yeah, I'm not going to call Christian a normie per se, but I think his sentiment is exactly what you see in this one, which is that 80K is, whether it's that psychological number or it's just the fact that we're back above all-time highs by like a decent chunk. Yeah, absolutely. Normies are paying attention. People are looking at it. I've been getting texts from my friends being like, wow, crypto's really going off right now. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then I also referenced the conversation I had with them last summer about like, oh, wow, this might be the last time we see 25K Bitcoin. They're just like, oh, look at that.
Huh.
Yeah. I would agree. I'm gonna pull up the post later if I can grab it. But you pulled up a Christian's X post there. I have, so one of my good friends, Adam Ramey. I'm not sure if you guys listen to like metal, but he's one of the lead vocalists of a band called Dropout Kings, and they're on tour right now. And he posted on Facebook, crypto is going bonkers. And I've never seen him post anything about crypto. So I'm like, I'm seeing now posts on Facebook from people who had either no business being in crypto or have never mentioned crypto ever. And it's starting to come through. So is there a lot of credence to DCC's prediction that retail come in at $80,000? I think so.
It was a good take. It was a very good take.
I wonder if this is the silent majority of people who have already been invested in crypto enough to be watching it, and they're about to bring in all the actual normies. So like, we're on the bottom part of the bell curve where it's like all the crazy people out on the outskirts, whether they're like super crazy or super smart. That's all us right there. And then the next order up from that is the people that have it but don't talk about it because they're like embarrassed about it or whatever the case may be. Like they own it, they're in the space, but they don't do anything with it. They don't let anyone know. It's like they're kind of shy.
Here's the thing, though. Like my buddy is a savvy investor.
Yeah,
he has never spoken about crypto as an investment vehicle before. This is the first time, and I've known this guy for almost a decade.
Yeah, that's good. Kat says that the strippers. Oh, bring that one back up again.
The old stripper
Kat says
index,
strippers are going to start talking about crypto. Yes, that is something that is very real.
Well, look, I'll put it this way. We're going to Vegas in March, which is a ways away from now. But when we're out there, we might have to do some investigative journalism, shall we say.
What a good
research
good
collecting
man you are.
Yeah. I'm just trying to stimulate the economy.
Yes. The gain's got to go somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of gains, and speaking of things going somewhere, next up for chat shoutouts, it looks like we have none other than Miss Crypto Stylist. Hello to you too, Miss Crypto Stylist. Good to see you. Welcome back to the channel. I can't remember. Z, is she over in London or is she in Asia somewhere?
She is in Asia. She is fighting the good fight against time zones that are not friendly with most of the shows that she likes to watch. So absolutely hats off to her. She does good work and she's good folk. So hope to see you stateside sometime soon.
Hell yeah. Good stuff. Welcome to the channel and good to see you. Thank you for chilling with us at this ungodly hour of the day, wherever it is for you. Next up, we've got Mr. K. Hudson. Was Richard Hart's 20,000 call overly optimistic at the time? Real question. I wasn't in crypto then. I don't know what the 20,000 K call was.
The call
this the bear market?
Hudson, the call K Hudson was actually 10K in prey. So
I thought it was 12.7.
I don't know.
The point is, it got close. It didn't hit, and it was a meme for a long time, especially last year, where it was like, "Oh no, don't worry, 12K, it's coming, I swear."
I am going to give RH some, I'm gonna extend him a little bit more room because RH spoke extensively about the grayscale discount. So if you include the grayscale discount there, then some people got in at 10,000. So technically speaking, somebody got 10K Bitcoin during the bear market.
20K Christmas 2017. Okay, so that would have been last cycle then, or the cycle before, wouldn't it? That was the top.
I was not in at that time.
I have no idea. No clue.
We'll have to consult with one of the elders, if you will.
Yeah. I would have just been getting off a boat. Yeah. I had just finished touring the Mediterranean with my Navy friends and bombing the shit out of Libya when that was happening. So I have no idea what was going on in the internet world at that time. But yeah, I suppose Richard Hart might have been talking about it. I have no idea, good sir. You're gonna have to look into and ask more knowledgeable people. I'm relatively crypto young. But anyways, back to chat shoutouts. Thank you for the question. I'm sorry I don't have the answer for you. And I don't know where I would go and find that. Next, Mr. Chat shoutout goes to none other than Kenturian54X saying ETF inflows come in hot on new all-time high. I wonder if we see the same for Ethereum. So yeah,
screen share if you don't mind.
Hey! Look at what we got going on here.
Yes, you are correct. We are seeing an increase in flows in Ethereum ETF. I'm not going to say that's entirely the cause for the price action currently, but it definitely helps, considering that the flows were not helping earlier in the year. And I think that this largely has been one of the things that's been suppressing the Ethereum price for a long time. Now that we're actually seeing some positive Ethereum flows, I think it's looking better for it, for sure. At the same time, though, I do just want to point out the Bitcoin flows 10x the Ethereum flows any given day, minimum.
Yep.
Minimum 10x them. The Bitcoin ETF is like so much more massive. I can't even stress it enough. Like, is the spot Ethereum is ETF cool? Very cool indeed. Understand it is very small though.
Yep.
And it's still the number 2. So
I will add to Centurion's question. So this gives a lot of credence to when people say that there are a lot of insiders in the market, that these big financial institutions probably have some of that insider information, because I'm going to tell you right now, Centurion, the ETF flows came in hot, not just on election night, or not just on new all-time highs. The ETFs were front running. Like, we saw some of these massive candles. I think the ETF inflows hit a new high like a few weeks before election, man.
Yep.
So the inflows were coming in very hot, way before all-time highs, way before that. So did they have insider information, or were they just like, we've been in the market long enough to know that, yeah, man, the wind is flowing into a Trump presidency. Like, we're going to tell our guys to start dumping money into the ETFs. So who knows?
yeah, I'm looking at early October here is when we started to see a large increase in the Bitcoin ones.
There you go.
And then notably for the Ethereum ETFs, this is also American market. There are other markets, but this is far and away the largest. We started to see Ethereum start to go positive in beginning of October as well. This was a bit of a turning point too, which is that we really hadn't seen Ethereum go positive until this point here. And again, it coincides right with the Bitcoin stuff, and it coincides exactly with what Jay's talking about.
So there you go, Centurion. Thank you, Zenith, for providing the visual. So the ETF, like those candles were coming in October, tail end of October. So these guys knew, man. They knew something.
For sure. By the way, folks, the website I'm looking at here, it's free. It's coinglass.com. They have some really great data. And by the way, they have one other really great point of data that I want to show because I need to give Jay his flowers. If you remember back to the Q4 thesis show, Jay pointed out a nice little interesting tidbit, which is that anytime you have a green September, odds are the next 3 months are going to be green as well. He also pointed out that September for 2024 was green. And we confirmed October, and it looks like we're about to confirm green candle in November. There was a big question about whether October was going to be green or not, but came in at the last minute, and it flipped green. So there you go. Jay, vindicated, proven right. Well done, sir.
Well, I mean, I can't take credit for that because, like, it's not like it was a hard chart to miss, right?
It's not a hard chart to miss, but you were the first person to point it out, and you stamped it, and you said, yep, it's going to happen. There you go. Well done.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
If you ever tell a funny joke, Jay, and people laugh, even if you weren't the one that came up with the joke, you still brought people to laughter. So there is that.
Thank you, sir.
You don't get.
It's greatly appreciated.
Yes.
I like compliments.
Yes. And speaking of compliments, I'm going to compliment one last final member of our chats, Mr. Brightlight Crypto. He is here for the agreeance, and all that I have to say about that is absolutely yep. good sir. So good to see you, Brightlight. Welcome, welcome. For those of you that don't know, Brightlight is a fellow streamer. He does a bit of technical analysis and some chart talking, and he speaks of liquidity providing things. So go check him out over at Brightlight Crypto on YouTube. Or
Yeah,
I think it's Brightlight Crypto. I think I might have just
Yeah.
butchered the
Bright
name of
Light.
that.
Most of the team, especially when it comes to the analyst, we tend to agree on like 95% of things. If you notice, me and Z really only go back and forth, like literally
nitpicking 60-day cycles.
Yeah, like
Nitpicking.
literally we get granular, and that's what we debate.
I mean, I think the only other professional disagreements that we've had tonight it wasn't even tonight, but it was earlier today in the Telegram, or it was yesterday even, I think. But we were talking about the FOMC, talking about specifically how whether or not this 25% quarter basis point cut was already baked in or not. I said it was. I believe Jay was disagreeing with me and be like, no, there's some market reaction. I was like,
No, you were actually correct. I misinterpreted what you said. So
okay.
when you clarified
there you
it here,
go.
I was like,
We're in agreement.
Okay, that's what Z meant. So yeah, we also agree there. I was like, was it baked in? Like, I mean, like the rest of the entire committee, like when you look at the heat map, right? Yeah, everybody was like saying 25 bips. I was like, well, yeah, that's obvious. I thought you meant something else.
Oh, yeah, no, that's my bad. That's just me doing bad English then. There you go. I think the only disagreement we have right now is with this guy right here and body language, whatnot. There you go, Will. You're the biggest disagreeer of the evening.
I don't care. I've got agreeable friends like Brightlight Crypto, so I'm all good with it. And I am fine to stand my grounds when I'm disagreed with, and when I find a better way of thinking, then I will adjust my approach. Because I operate at the tactical level, unlike Jerome Powell, who's out here doing strategeries and all that stuff. So listen, guys, I wanted at first when I was looking through the articles and things, I wanted to talk about the S&P 500 because it dovetailed in kind of nicely with what Jay was talking about. But the article Zenith that you put up about, or somebody put it up about the about Detroit being the largest city to accept crypto to pay taxes and fees, I think that that's pretty nifty. And then, Tether Trade Finance completes its funding of its first Middle Eastern crude oil transaction. That's also pretty cool. Then we've got a bunch of stuff from. Oh no, we already covered the nuclear herbs Gary Gensler thing. But I don't know. I'm leaning towards talking about the using crypto to pay taxes in Detroit.
Bro,
that's something
you're the host, bro. Run it how you want it, man.
Yeah, that's something that I think I'm double checking to make sure that it was Zenith that put that up and not you, Jay, because I know you said you had some things that you wanted to share as well. And we've covered the Ethereum so far. So I think that we're gonna hop into, because I'm quite curious to see what's going on with this Detroit, and the government is allowing to use crypto to pay taxes. Is this the beginning of CBDCs? Is this some craziness? What do we got? Let's pull up a screen share. If you want, I can pull up the article, unless one of you gentlemen already has it ready to rock and roll.
I got it.
Okay. Zenith. So tell me what's the long and short of this little shenanigans going on here?
The long is more people or more government entities anyway, are allowing crypto transactions. Specifically, the city of Detroit is allowing people to pay taxes and fees with cryptocurrency. However,
would not have been my first guess, bro. Definitely would not have.
Wow. Yeah, but the other short of it here is down in the quick takes, which is that 3 states, Colorado, Utah, and Louisiana, accept crypto for state payments as well. So this is not the trailblazer, but it is another data point in the heat pointing at things going a certain direction. And it makes sense. So it's pretty standard, to be honest. It's just a lot of, Detroit is building a technology-friendly environment that empowers residents and entrepreneurs. And then down at the bottom, they're like, Detroit is also inviting blockchain entrepreneurs to pitch ideas for blockchain civic applications to the city's director for entrepreneurship and economic opportunity. The city is interested in projects that leverage blockchain's potential for enhancing transparency, improving data security, and streamlining public services, according to the release.
Now, something that's interesting about this, right? And can you scroll back down, Z, and re-highlight that paragraph that you just had going on? So, Detroit is interested in projects that leverage blockchain's potential for enhancing transparency. You know what's interesting is this is about people paying their taxes. This is not about what the government is spending its money on. So I want to make that abundantly clear to the folks at home that that's where my mind goes when I read this and they're like, yes, we want to increase transparency for you paying us. We don't want to Like this is the process that they're allowing this for. I'm guessing is this is for payments. This is not for government spending. This is not for government accountability. This is not us keeping track of the receipts that the government's spending. This is like, oh, John Smith paid his taxes and he sent us this much money from this wallet. Oh, that's interesting. Let me go type that wallet into Arkham or whatever the heck and see what other wallets are associated with
Could
that
this be a honeypot?
Could it be a fucking
it's
honeypot?
entirely possible.
Yeah.
That's what
No,
I'm
it is-
saying.
it is a honeypot. Good point for Will, but I actually so that I'm going to add that. But the
Yeah.
second point is that it's a honeypot because why in the fuck would you want to give the government your crypto?
Bam. Unless you're sitting on a stack of USDC, which you shouldn't be, because the bear market's like over, guys. The last chance to buy is gone. So like you got to do the second best, which is now. But like the man, like unless you're just sitting on a big stack of USDC, or let's say you have some sort of super cool mechanism of like paying for regular everyday life stuff using stable coins and things. Like you're not going to the store and swiping your Ethereum wallet or whatever. You could maybe there's a way that you have like you go to blockbend.io and you get one of those crypto credit cards. It's a credit card that's linked to a wallet that has stable coins in it, right? And that, or no, excuse me, that you buy a prepaid card using cryptocurrency, and there's probably some sort of fee or whatever the heck. But like, unless you're using stable coins as your everyday, like transaction, to buy your bread and to buy your gasoline and stuff, like I agree with Jay 110%. Why the fuck are you giving your cryptocurrency to the government? Don't fucking do that shit. Keep a hold of
that.
man.
And it's like Will said, why would you give them entry into your private life in terms of your finances, right? Like on a broad spectrum, is it good that all of these sovereign entities are creating use cases for crypto? Yeah, absolutely, because that means adoption. Does it mean that you're going to give the government your crypto? No. Does it mean that you're going to allow the federal government to view your private financial records? I thought the point of the story was privacy, or at least one of the points of the story was privacy.
That's like that. Yeah, that's part of the ethos of cryptocurrency.
Yes.
But like
It's a major part.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own level of comfort with how doxed they want to be. This is a high level of doxing, which is that not only is it someone giving a wallet, but how do you know who paid you in crypto? Like if you just are the city of Detroit, how do you know whose taxes is whose? The way that you do that is you have to also associate your identity with one of the wallets. That's the part where this is the high level of doxing, which is that you have to do some sort of two-factor verification, which is you are verifying that you sent a transaction and you are verifying that that transaction is you. So it again comes back to how doxed do you want to be? And I think if you want to be true to one of the ideals of crypto, which is privacy, until the government is okay with you using a Mixer application to anonymize your transactions, then you really shouldn't be that comfortable with sending them crypto, because then you're pretty much just de-anonymizing everything you got. So this is a bit of a line in the sand for me, which is that I think there is an unfair witch hunt by the governments against mixers. And I understand the justification for it, as lame as I think it is, which is that they're going to try to tell you it's used for like terrorism and funding illegal activity all over the world. But just remember, less than 3% of all criminal activity is paid for with cryptocurrency. Far and away, the hegemony of international crime is the U.S. $120 bill. It's one of those two. Outside of that, people sending Bitcoin for pot on the internet, it's like it's so minuscule. It's kind of dumb in my opinion. But at the same time,
go ahead.
I will advise people abide by the law, be good citizens, pay your damn taxes.
Yeah, and pay it in fiat. Don't pay it in crypto.
Pay with the money that you're earning right now. That's like worth nothing. Don't pay it with your store of value. One thing that I would, can you scroll back down to it, Z, again? The one
you
thing
really
that
like
I
this
would
paragraph. You really like it.
I do. That's the one thing that stuck out to me of this whole thing is the city is interested in projects that leverage blockchain's potential for enhancing transparency, improving data security, and streamlining public services. You know, it'd be really cool is if the city hired a developer and he worked alongside Roman Storm and all those other gentlemen at oh fuck, Tornado Cash.
Yeah.
And if they made some sort of Tornado Cash thing where it's like, hey, citizens, you put your money in and you tell us whatever the magical phrase is for like pulling out an X number, or like you put in your own shit, you put it in a brand new wallet and you send it to us. Like that'd be pretty interesting, because I know that there's wallets that are like, once you use Tornado Cash to mix this stuff, then
it's tainted. It is radioactive at that point.
not the sending wallet, the receiving wallet, right?
Yeah.
Or are both wallets tainted?
Pretty much both. It's I think witch hunt is a very apt term here, because they hate the fact that it's being used, and it's very whoever's attached to it. They don't like any of it. They don't like people that put in. They don't like people that get out. Because all of it allegedly is dirty money.
Yeah, unfortunately,
give that dirty money to the government, guys. That's what I think would be hilarious. Like, I'm not saying to go out and make a burner wallet and then use Tornado Cash and then send that money to the government so that they have to arrest their own government employees or whatever. But boy, would that sure be funny. You know, like there's an idea. You know, I mean, I'm not going to give financial advice, but it's just like this. The whole system is set up for them more power, you less power. Them more money, you less money. You know. So like, I like things that disrupt that sort of whatever. And when they give us this like this lip service of like, oh, we like transparency and blah blah blah, it's like, no, you're just saying the words that you know that we like, and then you're twisting it into your own little whatever the hell. And like, I don't trust the words anyways. Yeah, we observe the actions. We don't listen to the words.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Will, it's a nice sentiment, right? If the government actually approached somebody like Roman Storm, like, hey man, we actually want you to work with us to give our citizens more privacy. Number one, that's a pipe dream. And number two, it's unfortunate because even if they did, like Roman Storms, I think his trial was actually delayed.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And the other guy's Alexei. He's already in prison, unfortunately.
Yep. They should. Well, I mean, here's what gives me hope is, and I don't know what country he's being tried in. I don't know if it's the United States or if it's somewhere else.
But Roman is here. Roman is here.
Okay. Well, it would sure be nice if Donald Trump was able to flex his little Presidente wings, or excuse me, similar like what he did for or what he is alleged to be going to be doing for the Silk Road guy.
Ross.
Yeah,
believe
Ross
it when
Ulbricht.
I see it.
Yeah, I will also believe it when I see it, but like, and it might just be a publicity stunt. It might just be lip service, you know. But like,
he's gonna get so much heat, bro. He will get so much heat from the crypto community if he doesn't follow through on that promise. He will get so much fucking. He will never hear the end of it, bro. Never hear the end of it.
There goes your legacy, Donnie. But like, you know, if he does do that, and then he's like, oh wow, this turns out to be a really cool thing, and then he starts. I'm not saying like pardon Snowden or like, well, Julian Assange is already free. But like, it would be interesting to see a script flip, if you will, of like between the old order and what I imagine Trump to be as part of some sort of new order or something.
You know who you got to tag, Will? Tag on X. You got to tag Barron. Barron's the crypto guy.
Yes,
I guarantee you right now, Barron's the one whispering in his dad's and his mom's ear about crypto. It's
Barron's the reason that Rogan went on all of those talk shows. Barron's the reason he went on Theo Von, that he went on Rogan, that like I don't know what other podcasts that Trump did, but like one of the campaign managers approached Trump and Trump was like, talk to Barron about it, and if Barron likes it, then I'll do it, you know. And so it's like, Barron was the gatekeeper for that shit. So yeah, that would be an interesting way to go about doing things.
I understand that Barron is definitely the one that was telling him to go hang out with like streamers like Aiden Ross and then doing all the Theo Von, Joe Rogan podcasts. Yep. But I also, this might be a bit of a hot take, and it's even early because they're not even in the office yet. But I think the true Donald Trump legacy is actually going to be JD Vance. And I think that JD Vance is actually one of the people that is in his ear talking about Bitcoin the most, because JD Vance has actually run in those circles previously, and he has personally carried legislation, pro-crypto legislation, well before he was ever a vice presidential candidate or pick or even considered for that. So I think JD Vance is going to actually be the way that he's stacking up right now, he's been a huge surprise in the positive way. And I think that JD Vance might be the person that is able to carry the populist ideals of Donald Trump and reform them into a new Republican coalition, sort of what you see with like the Donald Trump Justice League right now, where you got like Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Robert Kennedy, all those people coming together. It's Trump realistically has 4 years, although cynically he realistically has 18 months before there's another primary election. And just saying, the pattern usually goes, if it's a triumvirate within the presidency, the House, and the Senate, it usually flips at the 2-year point. So realistically, he's got 18 months to hammer home whatever he needs to do. And then after that, it's going to be a good grind. But after that, yeah, Trump's gone. He's termed out. He can no longer be president. He's also an old man, and unfortunately, he will die soon, just like all of us will die someday. And I think that if they can actually successfully pass the torch to J.D. Vance, who appears to be a very articulate vision of the Trump ideals and able to communicate it to a younger generation, and more importantly, actually enfranchise younger generations in political leadership, because that is the thing that has been missing for so long. If you can do that with JD Vance, I think cryptocurrency has a very good chance of becoming better established inside of the government, and especially more accepted within the government per se.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, we spoke about this a little bit in the Telegram earlier. JD has been one of the most outspoken people in the Senate about pro-crypto regulation. He has not been shy about it. He certainly has not been shy about his position on Gary Gensler. So, like, it's crazy, bro. Like, how much of a blessing was that? Because most of the other people who were involved in politics, at least from what I hear, when JD was selected as vice president, they were like, "Who the hell is this guy?" But then the crypto industry was like, "Well, we know that guy.
We know that
because
guy."
like Coinbase has their their list of like, yeah, here's what we rank them in terms of their position in crypto, what they've spoken about. So like we knew about the guy, but the rest of the political pundits were like, who the fuck is JD?
Well, JD Vance actually is a very interesting story, because he has had some mainstream success on both sides of the aisle when he wrote Hillbilly Elegy, and then it also got turned into a movie. It was interesting to watch the sentiment change, because when that was first written and it was first turned into a movie, many people on both sides of the aisle thought it was an interesting story with interesting ideals and were happy to carry it. But then as JD Vance got more enfranchised in the Republican side of the House, everyone magically flipped on his work, and they were like, "Oh no, we hate this guy, therefore his work's bad." It's like, no. Yeah. Just a minute ago you were happy about this. You're just playing the power games right now, which I understand. They are what they are. But at the end of the day, I think he's got an interesting story, and he's like barely, I don't even know if he's 40 years old, actually. I think he's like 38.
We've got a very important question that came up from Mr. Kenturian54X just now, and we will finish off with this question. We'll roll into a final thing of chat shoutouts, and then we will go ahead and end the show. But if money was no concern, would any of you young men run for office, local, state, or federal? Then also, I think we are good with the screen share. Zenith, you can take it down. Miss Producer, if you wouldn't mind bringing us back. But this is a question from Kenturian. I will go ahead and start off, and I will say, abso-fucking-lutely not. Nope, no politics for me. No, sir. I'm going to use maximum leverage to change the world, and I do not think that includes political candidacy, at least at this point in my life. So, as far as I can tell, and I reserve the right to change my mind, as any rational person would when presented with new information. But as far as right now, I would definitely not run for political office. What about the two of you?
For me, I'm with you there, Will. The answer is absolutely fucking no. If you're a politician, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of lines that you cannot cross. There's a lot of rules that you cannot break. And I have a much higher impact on my local communities as a regular citizen than I am as a politician. I guarantee you, especially making the kind of money that we can potentially make in crypto, right? I have a much better chance of making a positive impact on people's lives as part of my local fucking community and not engage in politics.
Yep.
I completely agree with both you guys, but to give some credence to the other side of the argument on this one, do I want to do this? Absolutely not. The way that I operate, I'm very much a duty and responsibility guy. I mean, I hope that's partly apparent through my military service. and through stepping up to volunteer and lead in the places where I'm currently leading, I think that right now my fight is not there. That is not my fight. If that becomes my fight, then sure, I'll take up that fight and lead the charge. But until I see my fight turning into something like Elon Musk had this election cycle, which is that Elon Musk was a guy who did not want to be political. He was a guy that just wants to get to Mars. But unfortunately, the government has made it so much of their business to stop Elon Musk's business that they are suing him for not hiring enough not enough green card workers.
Yes.
And asylum seekers, even though by law he's required to vet people heavily because he's part of a national security industry. Yep. So it's this oxymoron and paradox where it's like, oh wow, you didn't hire enough sketchy people. Well, also don't hire sketchy people. He got to the point this election cycle where he was actively campaigning with Donald Trump. And I think the analysis behind that is that Elon Musk realized he was a guy that's trying to do his business. He bought Twitter to promote free speech, and that also just compounded the issue for him, which is that I'm going to call it the deep state. Call it the blob, which is what the actual deep state calls themselves back in the day, 15, 20 years ago. But the deep state or the bureaucracy or the Leviathan is very real and is squarely aimed at innovators and entrepreneurs like Elon Musk to try to drive their own interest and redistribute whatever is currently existing instead of building new things. Because of that, Elon Musk made the calculation, the fight is with the government, and he has to get involved in the fight so that he can further his primary mission, which is SpaceX, Tesla, free speech, all that stuff. If that is the case for me, then sure, I'll pick up the fight where it is. But right now, that's not where my fight is.
Yep, I agree. And bro, just to touch on the Elon Musk thing one more time, the State Department requires that the people that work for anything having to do with spacefaring and rockets, that they be naturalized U.S. citizens, which means that he can't hire immigrants, no matter if they're legal or if they're illegal. And then they're also suing him for not hiring immigrants. And it's just well, we'll make up your fucking mind, bro. These rockets are, super secret technology, and I can't be hiring Chinese spies that go and disappear on a Malaysia flight 357 or whatever the hell, or and just the whole point is they're playing all these dumb games. He did another point where he's like, the environmental agency required that I have a bunch of studies done to prove that when the rockets come down and land in the ocean that they're not going to be killing whales. And Elon was like, hey, look out at the ocean. You see all those whales out there? Oh, no, you don't see any of them? Oh, okay. There's a lot of ocean, a very little bit of whales. So the odds of the rocket hit, and he still had to do all this tests and funding and stuff. And they just the government just dragged its feet. So yeah, if it becomes a fight, then it becomes a fight. I could see this kind of being the case right now with Richard Hart and the SEC. Richard Hart is not political, but he's having to make political moves in order to get his thing done that he wants done. Now he's not going to be running for, governor or anything, but he is fighting the government where it needs to be fought and putting his foot forward and doing the things that he needs to do in order to get his goals accomplished and things. So that's all I got about that. Ladies and germs, we are getting really close to our 2-hour mark. Mrs. Producer, I'm going to do one final quick little round of chat motherfucking shoutouts. So if you don't mind, let's see who has all joined us since we've been running our mouths on all these excellent topics. It's been a good show, though. It's been absolutely great. So we've got Dr. H, the Crypto Practor. Hey, Degens, what the fuck is happening? Gave y'all a big shout out today on the midday show. Thanks for all you do. Shout out to you too, Dr. H. For those of you guys that don't know, Dr. H runs a Sunday show roundabouts noon Eastern time, where he talks about cryptocurrency. He talks about portfolio management. He talks about the richest man in Babylon, and sometimes he even talks about chiropractoring, which is super duper cool. So y'all should go check him out. You can find him at the YouTube that is the same as the name that he's using right there. So shout out to you, Dr. H. It is good to see you. And then let's see, what else have we got for chat shout outs here? That looks like that's about it. Excellent. Yeah. All right, cool beans.
Hey, Will, before we sign off here, I did want to share the data that I have on Ethereum because it'll kind of cap off what I promised the chat that I would cap it off here on Sunday after all of the Ethereum analysis that I did.
Excellent.
I'm not going to go over the entire article. It's just the article is basically explaining a position from 21 shares about how investing in Ethereum is like investing in Amazon in the 1990s, right? And the last thing that I wanted to share was some very important metrics on DeFi Llama as to why people that who only pay attention on price action are going to miss the boat on Ethereum. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Do it.
There are just 3 different metrics that I want to share with the people here real quick about Ethereum, right? So what we have here on DeFi Llama, which is something that I need you guys to get familiar with to like get the hell to be able to filter out all the fucking noise that goes out there, right? The people that just pay attention to the US dollar valuation, right? Here's the total value locked for all of DeFi. This is combined EVM and non-EVM chains. If Bitcoin runs the entire crypto market with a market cap of dominance of about like 68% right now, Ethereum runs all of DeFi. Ethereum total value locked is 56%. Look at how small of the pie everybody else has, right?
Bitcoin's
So
sitting at a nice 3% right there.
Yeah. And when I tell you guys that total value locked is a good proxy for where people are playing in, that's because people are literally putting their money within the chain, right? And all of that is going to Ethereum, right? This combined EVM and non-EVM chains. Now, second, let's take a look at stable coins, right? Another good proxy of where people are putting their money. Here we go, stables.
It's been a lot of news about stables recently.
Yeah,
Lots of
Tether, stablecoin, and DeFi. I don't know, man. 50% of all stable coins in the entire DeFi space, they're in Ethereum. And it's always memed. Cardano, man. When Cardano gets a native stablecoin, that's when they'll finally get into the action. Cardano's not here because they don't.
Yeah.
Although congrats to Charles, right? He's making some moves. Cardano's up like 34% of the week. So congrats to you, Charles. But yeah,
Jay,
get it. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but isn't Base an L2 that's built on Ethereum?
Correct.
So the stable coins on an Ethereum L2 is more than some other native L1 chains in their own right.
Correct.
Because Base is sitting there at 2%, which is more than Optimism, Avalanche, Polygon, almost beating Solana, the number 3 chain in the space.
Yes.
And that's the L2 for Ethereum. Well, one of them. That's wild. That's wild.
Which is why when we talk about Base, right? We spoke about this on Go Fud Yourself when me, Nate, and Bean are on. You follow the money. The reason why we're bullish on Base and some of the projects going on in Base is because they are literally closest to the money. Coinbase and Base, by proxy, is the primary custodians for almost all of the Bitcoin ETF holders and all of the Ethereum ETFs holders. And I guarantee you they're probably going to be the primary custodian for the majority of the Solana ETF holders, right? So there's a reason why Base is also accumulating, even though it's a small portion compared to Ethereum, right? A pretty sizable percentage of the market cap when it comes to stables, right? And look at Tron here. This is a proxy for Chinese money, so you know. And then finally,
China is an issue on its own. Those people are looking for a good place to park capital, and typically it was in real estate, but people are actually starting to flee real estate in China, which is an interesting idea. Not fully fleshed out, but definitely worth looking into.
Yep. And finally, let's we can take a look at volume, but there's another one I wanted to take a look at here, which is, I believe, where is it? Where are my fees? Fees and revenues. Right? Now, Tether kind of makes sense because they're just collecting yield on the stables, right? But Ethereum, in terms of fees and revenues, right, sitting on number 3. And you can take a look at number of active addresses. You can take a look at the total 24-hour volume, whether you're looking at it on the daily, you're looking at total volume in terms of weekly. Ethereum dominates every single one of those things, right?
Jay, can you sort it by fees 1 year? I think that'll give you a good picture.
Let me see. Yeah, let me double check here if I can sort it by fees 1 year.
Yeah, just go to that 1 year column.
Yep, let's check a 1 year.
Sort it.
Oh, there you go. Even better.
No, click the sort button.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It's not letting me, unfortunately. I think this is the. Yeah. So when I go to the 1 year, Ethereum is sitting at number 2.
It's actually number 1 if you look at the
number 1. Oh, that's strange. You're right. Why is it not sorting correctly?
$2.5 billion.
And then Lido DAO would be underneath Tether, even though it's number 8, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, Lido makes sense sitting higher right? Because Lido is Ethereum's staking platform.
I'm saying the numbers
What?
next to the numbers next to the next to
It's,
the
the
descriptions
ranking
are
is
out of
not
order.
accurate
Yeah.
based on the data that we've
Yeah,
chosen.
this is so super weird. Why is it not
You
adjusting?
click
that?
the word fees. There we go. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh.
There we go. Thank you, sir.
Wow,
Thank you.
bad UI DeFi Llama.
Yeah,
Take our
I'm
feedback.
literally trying to click on the arrow here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Z. Yeah, but yeah,
That's so strange. Huh.
1 year, Ethereum beating out the stable coin that just collects perma yield from everything, from their stables and from their like US treasuries. So there you go. No matter who you're hearing it from, Ethereum is dead. Vitalik is with his Asian girlfriend and not doing any work. Ethereum is still the primary smart contract platform of choice. So sleep on Ethereum at your own risk. And then just to kind of like just to kind of take a shot at some of the haters. Give me 1 second. Here we go. So this is collective EVM and non-EVM. Let's go to non-EVM. Come on. So for all of you Solana haters, total value lock. I think the king is Solana when you go to non-EVM chains. So I'll leave it at that for the haters. Me and Jeff are kind of like, we always give shit about each other like when it comes to Solana. I'm like, bro, you don't have to play on Solana to make gains on Solana, man. So I just leave it at that.
Yep. Yeah, you just buy it straight off Coinbase, right?
Yeah,
Is
just
what
buy
you were
it.
saying in the chats.
Yep, and then bring it to
Straight
Phantom,
to-
and then you
straight
enjoy the
Phantom.
gains. You don't got to deal with stuck transactions or like this the chain going down. So
Yep.
do
Buy it
not
on-
Phantom right now considered an EVM, or is it the
non-EVM.
not
So,
EVM?
Sorry. I thought you were talking about Solana. Phantom?
No, Phantom.
wallet,
Yeah, because
right?
Phantom right now is an EVM compatible, but once we do the Sonic upgrade the end of this year, allegedly, it will no longer be EVM because it's actually going to be incompatible.
More
But there
weeks.
will still be an EVM upgrade for the Phantom.
I
network.
don't know if Phantom has been an EVM because since I've been in this space, it's always referred to as the Phantom virtual machine. So I don't know if that's just because they don't want to put Ethereum's name on themselves. So I'm not sure. We probably have to ask Twinkie or Boogie.
I was gonna say, yeah, we gotta hit up Boogie. By the way, I have one final meme to share if you don't mind.
Let's do
It's
it.
the classic we have from Hexologist. He says Solana is down, Pulse Chain has never went down. Solana network down, Hex users unaffected.
Unaffected.
Hey.
Solana's down bad, bro.
There you go.
Shit.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Hex users unaffected. They got
There you go.
mogged.
Mogged.
Mogged them. That's excellent. All right. Listen, guys, there's 2 more chat shoutouts that I'm going to roll through, and then we're going to ask where can the folks
Do it.
find you and what have you got going on in the near future. So, Mrs. Producer, we've got Danny Boy. Great fucking show. Thank you, amigo.
Thanks, sir.
We do our very best to create some good content for you guys, and we have fun in the meantime. So, thank you for the feedback. We like knowing that our shows are effective and awesome, and we appreciate your fantastic words. Next up, we've got the Beached Whale saying 75% earlier. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but I'm going to assume it's one of the charts that we had pulled up. So
It's
You're
probably
absolutely-
something related to Ethereum.
Was it front running the ETFs? Was that it? Phantom
be.
was EVN. The network is in MM. Okay, got it.
No,
okay.
no. So, So if something is on MetaMask, like Solana is not EVM, but Solana is also on MetaMask. Or are you talking about like the type of networks you can attach to MetaMask? Because if that's what you're talking about, then yeah, because
he was talking about Cardano being up 75% on the week.
yes, gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
real
right,
quick. I mean,
excellent. Thank you, Beach Whale. We appreciate that, amigo.
Golf clap to Charles and Cardano, man. I want you guys to win. Just please, man. Native stables and
Yeah,
they're good.
We didn't even get to it this show just because we had so much other stuff to talk about. But there have been some other L1s that have been absolutely popping off. Cardano is one of them. Dot is another one. I want to say Ton, not really. Gosh, there was another one. Solana is actually looking pretty good. It looked like it might actually break out and go past the previous all-time highs. It's literally like right at the high from March. So even outside of Bitcoin doing crazy things, Ethereum has had a very good pump for Ethereum being Ethereum. And then outside of that, there's some other real winners. Shout out to Crow Token. I want to say that there was a news event recently where Crypto.com is the #1 retail trading platform in the United States. So Crypto.com dethroned Coinbase in that regards. But at the same time, though, Jay is absolutely correct when he talks about how Coinbase is still the custodian for TradFi money. TradFi money still flows through Coinbase, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yep. Excellent tape. So that covers chat shoutouts. Zenith, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks at home where can they find you and what have you got going on in the near future, good sir, both on the streaming and in real life?
Absolutely. Folks, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ZenithDI, or you can catch me in the Telegram. You can @ us in the Telegram for any question, comment, concern, any crazy theory. We will get back to you as quickly as we possibly can. But other than that, that is what I got going on. We got our usual Wednesday show. I believe we're scheduled for a Whiskey Wednesday. We might be able to get a special guest, but we'll see. Outside of that, we have Friday Book Club hosted by this guy up here. I'll let him tell you more about that later on, but other than that, we'll catch you guys next Sunday. Same time, same place. We're hopefully new news. And good chances are we're in the part of the market where it moves fast. So I imagine there will be a lot of news between here and 7 days from now. That is all I got.
And Z will,
go for it.
And I will either tell Z I told you so, or Z will tell me I told you
We'll
so.
probably have an answer in 7 days. We will.
We're winning. No matter what, we're winning.
Correct.
It's outstanding.
We'll come back and we'll pay someone $1, whichever way it goes.
Yeah.
This is good. Agent J, where can the folks find you and what have you got going on in the near future?
The same stuff, man. We're going to have Telegram Tuesdays with Dace on Tuesday. Z already mentioned all of the other shows that we're going to have. Thank you, as always, for joining us this wonderful Sunday evening. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that here with us, whether you're on the live stream or you're going to catch us on the replay. Thank you so much. You can catch me on Instagram at agent_J Schroth, on X at _P90Hex. We didn't get to it today. I apologize. Beyond all ask, hey, what do you guys think about the PHEX and the Core 4 tokens? Beyond, if you're in our Telegram chat, we went over Pulse Chain on Tuesday, right? And Centurion has asked about this also. I am working on a very detailed analysis for the Core 4. I want to do it justice. So I don't want to give you guys just like a short TLDR. But it's the TLDR is very bullish for the Core 4. That's what I got.
Excellent, Abe. We like to hear it. All right, folks. My name is Will Stevenson. You guys can find all of my socials at will.pls.fyi. And if you want to just do the old normal thing, you guys can follow me on Twitter at WillStevensonX. Let's see. As far as book club that Zenith had spoken about earlier, next Friday, we're going to be covering the 15 Ways to Fix the World by Richard Hart. It is narrated by a Wild SJ, and you guys can find it on YouTube. I'm updating the Telegram right now. Oh, I thought I was updating the Telegram. I guess I didn't. But if you guys want to check out the Degen Roundtable Book Club Telegram, then this is the link right here. It is t.me/Degen Book Club. That's the thing to do. If you guys want to be a part of our Degen Roundtable Telegram book club, it's totally separate from the standard Degen Roundtable Telegram. And it's basically just a gigantic note-taking system. People can talk about their ideas that happen in the books that we cover. We're going to be on, this is our 44th book. So shout out to Zenith for starting this book club, by the way. We just recently crossed the 1-year anniversary of book club, and man, have we come a long fucking way. I am 44 books smarter than I used to be, so it's super cool doing this stuff every week and just learning all sorts of craziness.
I remember when we were doing the every other book pacing, and I was like, man, I hope I don't get burnt out by doing only 26 books in a year. But now you were like, hey, this is too slow, we need more, we got to get those numbers up. And I was like,
we got to jack those numbers up, man. Yeah,
I mean,
I like it. I like it. If you, what do you think about the pace? This is probably a good time to talk about the pace. I think it's a good pace.
It's a healthy pace.
Yeah.
I think having you and I switch off leading every week has definitely
100%.
allowed it to work. But other than that, I never thought that like doing one book a week was going to be a reasonable pace. But like, it's doable. It's very doable.
Yeah. Once you take out the like the hosting a show is different than just like reading a book and thinking about it, so like that's why it's very necessary that we do the 1 week off, 1 week on. But like listening to a book, unless it's a super long book, you can get through a book in a day. Like you can listen to the whole, like you might not absorb everything correctly. If it's a 10-hour book, you can chug through the whole thing, and you might not, if you take notes and you pay attention to things and this, that, and the other, you think about it a little bit, you can do a book in 3 days, like super thorough. So like,
I think I actually went through the Great Wave. I also took notes, as you can see. I highlighted and desecrated this guy, and I think I did it in like 5 or 6 hours. Granted, I was kind of speed reading, but at the same time, I think I got most of it.
That is, yeah, dude. Like we churned through a lot, and I gotta say, like I am way smarter as a result of this book club than pretty much any other educational endeavor that I've undertaken, as far as like personal development and understanding the foundations of things. There's some like courses out there that like teach you how to hone and focus in on certain skills and things, but like book club in general has just like, I've got so educated because I'm participating. Like if I was just listening to the stuff, it'd be like, oh, this is entertainment, but like because I'm actually participating, I am forced to do the work. And so like I'm going to bring it back to like the cryptocurrency. Like I'm literally doing proof of work to get the education extracted out of this book. To be like, I got to listen to it multiple times so I know I can talk like reasonably about it. I got to take notes and come up with questions. If I'm a host, I have to do like summaries, and I have to understand what each and every single chapter is, like if I'm going to ask poignant questions on them all. So like, it's super crazy, awesome, cool, man, and I freaking love it. So, anyways, all that to say that this coming week we're going to be covering 15 ways to fix the world, and it's written by Richard Hart, the writer of Sci-Vive, and it's going to be awesome. So, I'm going to reach out to SJ and see if she's interested in joining us on that one. We shall see what her schedule looks like, but that's going to be at Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So for the folks at home who don't know, all of our shows here on the Degen Roundtable are at 8. We start at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we generally end around 10 o'clock Eastern. But, a lot of the times we run a little bit over our 2 hour that we shoot for. But you guys can catch us on Wednesdays. We interview guests, or we do a Whiskey Wednesday where we either talk to people who are creating things in the cryptocurrency space, or we hang out with community members or fellow streamers that are interested in hopping on and shooting the shit with us. And we all get moderately tipsy on stream, and we talk about how great life is and all the cool stuff that we're working on. So
Zenith will smoke a cigar in his backyard while getting snowed on actively.
Yes. Oh man, that was a great celebration, broski. I fucking love seeing that.
I thought that was a green screen, Z, and then I was like, oh, it's not a green screen.
No, that was me freezing my butt off. We got 19 inches of snow.
Oh my god, bro, that's awesome. That is so cool. You guys got good road plowing service down there?
Yeah, we do, thankfully.
Okay, that's good. That is good. I like it. Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics actually asks a very good question. Mrs. Producer, would you mind pulling this up? When are you going to read 50 Shades of Grayscale? And I gotta say, like, if Grayscale comes out with a 50 Shades of Grayscale, I will be very impressed, and I will read it. Now, I don't think that they're going to, because they're a bunch of lame ass, investors and things. But I would totally read it, and I would do it for you guys. I would read that.
Mrs. Producer says, "Fuck out of here."
Yep, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. By the way, shout out to Mrs. Producer. I don't think we shout out Mrs. Producer quite often enough. Shout out to Mrs. Producer, handling the chats, making sure to write back to all the people in the comment sections, doing the camera swaps, doing the moving us all around, and like whenever we go to present screen and share things, I don't have to think twice about it. Zenith and Jay don't have to think twice about it. So Mrs. Producer, Mrs. McGettit, shout out to her. She's handling a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes. So this isn't a 4-man show. This isn't a 3-man show today. This is a 4-man show. So every time that we're running a show, you guys, Mrs. Producer is in the background, switching the cameras and making sure that you guys have a fantastic experience, and also making thumbnails and doing a whole bunch of other stuff with the social media promotions. So we don't shout out Mrs. Producer quite often enough. So this one goes to you, Mrs. Producer. And I've covered our schedule. We do Wednesday, we do Friday, we do Sunday. You guys can catch us all right here on the Degen Roundtable at 8 p.m. Eastern. And that is all I've got for things going on in the near future. And it's time to read the end of show copywriting. So I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent J just said not but a moment ago, we know that time is your most precious asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable. Mrs. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger figure ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to Degen responsibly.